Hey everybody, welcome back.
My niece pushed my little daughter from her chair and said, "Go away. You don't belong here." She fell hard. The room went silent. I helped her up and we left. That evening I canceled the payment for her rent. And that was just the beginning. My sister's daughter shoved my 4-year-old off a dining chair so hard that Lily's head nearly hit the tile floor. And when I looked up at my sister Brenda, waiting for her to say something, anything, she just shrugged and said, "Kids will be kids tomorrow." That was the last time I ever made excuses for her. But let me take you back. Hi, I'm Tamara. 32, living in Columbus, Ohio with my husband Derek and our daughter Lily who just turned 4. My whole adult life I've been the family peacekeeper. You know that person? The one who apologizes when she did nothing wrong just so holidays don't explode? That was me. Keyword, was. My older sister Brenda is 36 with a 7-year-old daughter, Mackenzie. I love Brenda. I do. But she parents like a spectator. Like she's watching someone else's kid misbehave and thinking, somebody should handle that. Except it's her kid. And nobody ever does. Mackenzie isn't a bad kid. 7-year-olds test limits. That's their whole job. But when nobody sets those limits, that kid becomes a tiny dictator. And that's what happened. It started small. Doesn't it always? At my parents' house, my mom Gloria made Sunday dinner. Lily was coloring at the kids' table and Mackenzie walked up, snatched the crayon out of her hand and said, "That's mine now." I asked Brenda to handle it. She didn't look up from her phone. "She's just playing, Tamara. Relax. Relax." Her favorite word. Mackenzie knocked over Lily's juice? Relax. Told Lily the dollhouse was only for big girls? Relax. Pinched Lily's arm hard enough to leave a mark? Relax. And I swallowed it every time. Brenda had been separated from Mackenzie's dad Craig for 2 years. Money was tight so I made excuses. Actually, I did more than make excuses. I was paying half her rent. $1,200 a month. Me and Derek, every single month for almost a year. Derek never complained but I could feel it wearing on us. My dad Robert pulled me aside once and said, "Tamara, your sister's taking advantage of your good heart." I told him he was wrong. Told him Brenda just needed time. Have you ever defended someone so hard you couldn't see what was right in front of you? Yeah, that was me. Then came the birthday party. Late September, my parents' house, my dad's 61st. Just family cake, the grandkids. Should have been nice. We're all at the dining table. Lily's in her booster seat eating cake, frosting on her nose, giggling. And Mackenzie walks over. Stands right next to her. Stares. Then she grabs the booster seat and shoves. Hard. Lily flew off the chair and hit the floor. Cake went everywhere. And while my daughter sat there shaking, trying not to cry, Mackenzie looked down at her and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Go away. You don't belong here." Dead silence. My mom froze. My dad set down his fork. Derek was already halfway out of his chair. And I stared at Brenda. Waiting. Surely this time she'd step in. Surely she'd say, "Mackenzie, apologize right now." She looked at Mackenzie, then at me and said, "Tamara, don't make a scene." She didn't mean it. Kids are rough. Kids are rough. My daughter is on the floor with cake in her hair and a bruise forming on her elbow and I get, kids are rough. Something shifted inside me. You know that feeling when you realize nothing will ever be the same? That was it. I didn't yell. I got up calmly, picked Lily off the floor, wiped frosting off her dress, kissed her forehead and said to Derek, "We're leaving." My mom tried to stop me. I said, "No, Mom. We're done." As I walked past Brenda, I stopped and whispered so only she could hear, "You just lost a lot more than a dinner guest tonight." She rolled her eyes. "You're so dramatic, Tamara." That night after I put Lily to bed, I sat with Derek at the kitchen table and said, "I'm canceling the rent payment." He looked at me. "She's going to lose that apartment." "I know." He squeezed my hand. "Hey, then we cancel it." I logged into our bank account and stopped the transfer. $1,200 a month, gone. Do you think I was wrong? Because part of me felt guilty instantly. That's my sister. That's my niece. But then I thought about Lily on that cold floor and the guilt just disappeared. Next morning my phone exploded. 7 missed calls from Brenda before coffee. Texts from my mom saying, "Call your sister." And 1 text from my dad, "Heard what happened. I understand." God bless that man. I didn't call back. Not that day, not the next. I knew whatever Brenda wanted to say wasn't an apology. It was going to be accusations. "How could you do this to me?" Not, "Is Lily okay?" When she finally reached me 3 days later, guess what the first thing she said was? Not sorry. Not, "How's Lily?" It was, "Tamara, my rent is due in 2 weeks and the payment didn't go through. What did you do?" That's when I knew I'd made the right call. And honestly, what happened after that? Brenda was about to learn a very expensive lesson about consequences. And it was a long time coming. So where was I? Right. Brenda on the phone, not asking about Lily, just panicking about rent. I told her straight. I stopped the payments, Brenda. I'm done. She laughed. Actually laughed. Said, okay Tamar, very funny. Turn it back on. Like I was joking. I'm not joking. Then came the screaming. You can't do this to me. I have a child. What kind of sister are you? I waited for her to take a breath and said, the kind who watched your daughter push mine onto the floor while you did nothing. She hung up on me. Now you think that was the end of it? If you do, you haven't met a Brenda. By Thursday my mom Gloria was at my kitchen table with that face. I'm not taking sides, but fix this face, which absolutely is a side. He told me I was being cruel. That Brenda couldn't make rent. That Mackenzie was just a child. And I said, Mom, did you see Lily hit the floor? Did you see the bruise on her elbow? Did anyone besides me and Derek care that my 4-year-old got hurt? She looked down at her coffee. You're right that it was wrong. But she's your sister. And Lily is my daughter. She left without finishing her coffee. That stung. I expected her to understand, but she chose Brenda. Because Gloria protects whoever makes the most noise. My dad though, Robert called that evening and said, don't let your mother guilt you. You did right. Have you ever had that one family member who just gets it? That was my dad. 2 weeks passed. Rent came due. Brenda couldn't pay. He called me crying, begging. I said no. He called Derek to go around me. He said, this is Tamara's decision and I support her. He called my mom called me. I said no again. Horrible game of telephone where every message was, give Brenda money, and my answer was always the same. But here's where it gets interesting. Because I thought the worst Brenda could do was ignore her kids' behavior. I was very wrong. 3 weeks after I cut payments, my cousin Jolene called. Jolene is the family news network. Nothing happens without her knowing, and nothing she knows stays quiet. She said, Tamara, check Brenda's Facebook. So I did. And my jaw hit the floor. Brenda had written this whole novel about how her own sister abandoned her and her child in their time of need. How I cut off a single mother for no reason. He tagged me, tagged Derek, tagged my parents. 40-something comments from people I barely knew calling me heartless. Not one word about what Mackenzie did. Nothing about the chair, the shoving, the bruise. Just poor Brenda, the victim. Derek said, don't respond online. That's what she wants. He was right. But I was shaking. Not from anger, from hurt. He twisted the whole story. My dad saw the post. Called me and said, I'm going to talk to your sister. I told him don't bother. He said, I'm not asking permission, sweetheart. I'm telling you. But guess what happened when he went to Brenda's apartment? This part still makes me sick. He knocked. Mackenzie answered. My dad said, hey sweetheart, is your mom home? And Mackenzie, 7 years old, said, Mom says we're not talking to Tamara's side of the family anymore. Tamara's side of the family. A 7-year-old said that. You think she came up with it herself? Brenda was coaching her. My dad got in eventually. Told Brenda to take the post down, told her to apologize, told her to make Mackenzie apologize to Lily. And Brenda said, are you ready? Lily probably deserved it. She's always whining for attention. My 4-year-old. Deserved it. Let that sit for a second. My dad walked out. Told me later he didn't trust himself to stay in that room. Fast forward 2 weeks. Brenda got the eviction notice. 30 days. And suddenly the Facebook post vanished. Suddenly my phone rang again. Suddenly it wasn't accusations, it was begging. Tamara, please. I have nowhere to go. Mackenzie has school here. And honestly, I almost caved. Derek looked at me and said, remember the floor. Remember the bruise. Remember she said Lily deserved it. I held firm. Brenda got evicted end of October. And here's the surprise nobody saw coming. I expected her to call Craig, move in with a friend, anything. Instead she showed up at my parents' front door with 2 suitcases and Mackenzie crying, saying she had nowhere else to go. My parents took her in. Of course they did. But here's what nobody expected. My dad set conditions. Robert, the quietest man alive, the guy who lets Gloria run everything, who barely raises his voice, sat Brenda down that first night and laid out rules. Mackenzie's behavior changes. The way she's been parenting changes. And this is the part that made my mom gasp. If she didn't get herself and Mackenzie into therapy, she'd have to leave his house too. My dad gave an ultimatum. My dad. The man who probably hasn't done that in 30 years. Brenda was furious. Cried. Yelled. Said he was taking my side. And he said, I'm taking Mackenzie's side. Because somebody needs to. When he told me that, I cried. Because that was the thing nobody was saying. Mackenzie was suffering too. Acting out because nobody taught her how to act right. 7 years old and already learning that being mean works because there are no consequences. That's not her fault. That's Brenda's. And I started thinking maybe this rock bottom is what Brenda needs. But she's stubborn. Unbelievably stubborn. So whether she'd listen to my dad or dig in deeper, I had no idea. What I did know is that the next few weeks were going to change everything for this family. I just didn't know yet how much I'd be part of making it happen. So Brenda's living at my parents' house with Mackenzie. And for the first week she did absolutely nothing my dad asked. Nothing. No therapy calls, no conversations with Mackenzie about behavior, no apology to me. She just sat in her old bedroom scrolling her phone like she was on vacation. And my mom, bless her, was already making excuses. She just needs time to adjust, Robert. Don't push her. But my dad held the line. And honestly, I've never respected him more. The second week, something small happened that changed the direction of all of this. My mom called me and said Mackenzie had started acting out at school. Her teacher sent a note home saying Mackenzie had been pushing other kids at recess and telling one girl she didn't deserve to sit at the good table. Sound familiar? Yeah. It hit me like a truck. Because that wasn't just Mackenzie being mean. That was Mackenzie repeating a pattern that nobody had ever corrected. And now it was spreading beyond our family. My mom sounded scared on the phone. She said, "Tamara, I think your father might be right about the therapy." You think? I wanted to say that so badly. But I didn't. Because my mom admitting my dad was right about anything is basically a national event, and I wasn't about to ruin it. So here's what I did. And some of you might think I'm crazy for this, but hear me out. I called around and found a family therapist. A really good one, Dr. Weston, who specialized in childhood behavioral issues. She wasn't cheap. $300 a session. But I called Brenda and said, "I'll pay for it. Every session. For you and Mackenzie. But only if you actually go." Dead silence on the phone. Then Brenda said, "Why would you do that? You literally got me evicted." And I said, "No, Brenda. You got yourself evicted. I just stopped saving you from it. There's a difference." More silence. Then real quiet, almost a whisper, she said, "Do you really think something's wrong with Mackenzie?" And that right there, was the first crack. The first time Brenda even considered that maybe this wasn't normal. Maybe her kid pushing other kids, saying cruel things, acting like a bully, maybe that needed attention. I almost held my breath because I was scared if I said the wrong thing, that crack would seal right back up. I said, "I don't think anything is wrong with Mackenzie. I think she's a kid who needs guidance she hasn't been getting. And I think you're a mom who's been so overwhelmed that you stopped noticing. That's not a crime, Brenda. But ignoring it now would be." She didn't say yes that day. But she didn't say no either. Do you think she went? Honestly, what would you guess? 3 days later, my dad called and said, "Your sister made an appointment with that therapist." I almost dropped my phone. Robert sounded shocked too, like he'd been bracing for another fight and instead got a ceasefire. The first session was just Brenda and Dr. Weston. Brenda told me later, much later, that she cried the entire hour. She said the therapist asked her one question that broke her open. "What are you most afraid your daughter is learning from you?" And Brenda couldn't answer. She just sat there and cried. The second session included Mackenzie. And that one was hard too. Dr. Weston had Mackenzie do these exercises where she had to describe how she felt when she pushed someone or said mean things. And Mackenzie, 7 years old, remember, said, "I feel big. Like nobody can hurt me." When Brenda told me that, her voice cracked. Because she realized that her daughter wasn't being mean to feel powerful. She was being mean because she felt small. The divorce, the instability, the moving, mom always on her phone. Mackenzie had been drowning and the only way she knew to keep her head above water was to push everyone else under. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. When Brenda told me all this, I cried too. Because I'd been so focused on protecting Lily, and I was right to do that. But I'd also written Mackenzie off as a bully. And she wasn't. She was a hurting kid with a checked-out mom. That doesn't excuse what she did to Lily. But it explains it. And understanding why someone hurts you doesn't make you weak. It makes you smart. Sessions 3, 4, 5, they kept going. I kept paying. Derek never questioned it. He just said, "If it helps those two, it's worth every dollar." Have I mentioned I married the right person? Because I really did. Around the 6th week, something happened that I genuinely did not expect. Brenda called me. Not about money. Not about drama. She called to apologize. She said, "Tamara, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what Mackenzie did to Lily. I'm sorry I didn't stop it. I'm sorry I called you cruel and put that stuff on Facebook. I'm sorry I said Lily deserved it. He didn't. He never did. And I'm sorry it took me losing everything to see that." I didn't say anything for a long time. I just held the phone and let myself feel it. Because I'd been waiting months for those words. And now that they were here, I didn't feel victory. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt sad. Sad that it took all of this to get here. I said, "Thank you, Brenda. That means more than you know." And then she said, "Mackenzie wants to tell Lily something." Can we come over? My stomach dropped. Honestly, it did. Because what if Mackenzie was mean again? What if Lily got scared? Derek must have read my face because he said, I'll be right there the whole time. They came over that Saturday. Brenda looked different. I can't explain it exactly, thinner, tired, but also somehow softer. Like the sharp edges had worn down a little. And Mackenzie was quiet. Not her usual loud, bossy quiet. Actually quiet. Nervous quiet. Lily was playing with blocks in the living room. She saw Mackenzie and froze. Moved closer to Derek. That broke my heart a little. Mackenzie walked over slowly. Brenda stood behind her with her hand on her shoulder. And Mackenzie said in this small, shaky voice, Lily, I'm sorry I pushed you. I'm sorry I said you don't belong. That was really mean and you didn't do anything wrong. You do belong. Lily stared at her. Then she looked at me. I nodded gently. And Lily, my sweet 4-year-old baby who I would burn the world down for, held out a blue block and said, Do you want to build with me? I'm not going to pretend I didn't lose it. I completely fell apart. Brenda was crying. Derek had to leave the room for a minute because that man will not cry in front of people, but I heard him in the kitchen blowing his nose. Even Mackenzie smiled. A real smile, not a mean one. They played blocks for an hour. No fighting. No snatching. Just two little girls building a very lopsided tower and laughing when it fell over. After that day, things didn't become perfect overnight. I'm not going to lie to you and wrap this up in a neat little bow. Brenda still had hard days. Mackenzie still had moments. Therapy is a process, not a switch. But the trajectory changed. Brenda stayed at my parents' house for about 4 months. During that time, she got a better job. Receptionist at a dental office, steady hours, decent pay. My dad helped her find a smaller apartment closer to my parents so they could help with Mackenzie after school. And Brenda started actually parenting. Setting boundaries. Saying no. Putting the phone down at dinner. My mom came around too. Gloria called me one night and said, I should have backed you up from the beginning. I was so worried about Brenda falling apart that I forgot Lily was the one who got hurt. I'm sorry, honey. And coming from my mom, that was huge. That was everything. By Christmas, we were all at my parents' table again. Lily and Mackenzie sat next to each other. Mackenzie helped Lily cut her food. Lily showed Mackenzie her new coloring book. They whispered and giggled like they had some private little secret. My dad watched them from across the table with this quiet smile on his face. He caught my eye, gave me a tiny nod and went back to his mashed potatoes. That nod said everything. It said, we did it. This family is still standing. And here's what I want to leave you with. I didn't cancel that rent payment to be cruel. I didn't do it for revenge even though it felt like revenge at the time. I did it because sometimes love means refusing to pretend everything is fine when it isn't. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is let them fall, and then be there to help them back up when they're ready. Brenda and I aren't the same sisters we were before all this. We're better. Different but better. And Lily and Mackenzie? They're actually friends now. Real friends. They had a playdate last week and built another lopsided tower. It fell over again. They laughed again. And I thought, yeah, we're going to be okay. So that's my story. All of it. If you made it this far, honestly, thank you. That means a lot to me. If you like this story, leave a like. It really does help. And if you didn't like something or you would have handled it differently, tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Because I'm still figuring this whole thing out just like everybody else. Thanks for watching and take care of each other out there. Care of each other out there. Care of each other out there.
Genuinely remorseful and kept apologizing. But I couldn't shake that feeling of betrayal. Like, not only was he doing all of this, like, on your wedding day, like, was he really gonna go and, like, look at his phone and, like, text this other woman on your wedding day? He basically thinks your feelings are a joke. He admitted that he had doubts, but he insisted that he loved me and wanted to make our marriage work. I told him I needed time to think, and since then I've been staying with a close friend while I sort through my emotions. Listen, it is okay to have doubts about your relationship. Lots of people have doubts. Lots of people get pre-wedding jitters. They get scared being with one person, but you don't cheat. You just don't. Now I'm torn. Did I overreact by leaving on our wedding day? Should I have confronted him then and there, or did I do the right thing by taking a step back to gather my thoughts? I feel like you were actually quite considerate of his feelings and everybody else at the party by just like quietly leaving. There are a lot of people out there that would
raise hell when they saw that.
My goodness. I feel guilty for leaving in such a dramatic way. You didn't though. Like, you were not dramatic at all. Like, I feel like you were quite poised in how you handled this. But I also feel justified in needing time to process such a huge revelation. Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband on our wedding day? Honestly, no. No, you're not. Like, I'm sorry that it had to happen on your wedding day. That really sucks. It sucks that he couldn't figure his out before and you guys could have broken up, or, you know, he could have been sure about you before you guys got married. I just feel like all of this could have been avoided. And just because you made the decision to leave on the wedding day, yes, but like you wouldn't have done that if you didn't encounter, like, the conversation is one thing, the cheating is another thing. It's both things that you discovered one after the other on your wedding day. If anybody doubts you, just send out a text blast. Send out a text blast so everybody knows exactly what happened. I still can't believe that some people are saying that you should like work on the relationship. Like, he just shows no respect to you whatsoever.
Huh?
Snoo advice said, get an annulment and an STD panel, that's all. Yep. This, and sue him for the cost of the wedding. Literally, like, why would you go through that? Weddings are so expensive. They are so time consuming for everyone else involved as well. Please, for the love of God, please, if you